right, thank you very much. So, pleasant afternoon, and thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today. We are very pleased to be able to welcome those of you that have been with us for a long time now, as well as those who are new to the department. And these are, of course, our freshmen. So, today marks our first Tech Talk for this semester, and we are proud to be able to host it today with all of you. Before we get started, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of you who generously helped us to make this event come together to become a success. I won't call names, but I'll say the entire CHIPS executive body, as well as our guest speaker for today. We couldn't have done it without you. For those of you who are new, this session serves as a monthly academic highlight for the students of the Computer and Information Sciences Department and will feature a guest presenter in the person of a past student who will share with us on a subject pertinent to them and their academic development. We also have a question and answer segment for students to ask the presenter questions relevant to his or her field and or the presentation specifically. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, so I'll allow Mr. Lennox to go after. But today will be a fun and, of course, full of learning. So a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. And of course, a special welcome to our guest presenter, Mr. Trevor. And I'm also seeing Mr. Alton Smith. Special welcome to you as well. So I'll allow Mr. Lennox to go ahead with the devotion.
Mic check 1, 2. Good afternoon, everyone. Are you hearing me? Wonderful. Let us begin with our devotional. So today, the devotional will be focused on the story of the prodigal son. Now, if you're familiar with the story, which I think you should be, just drop a Y in the chat. Wonderful. Okay, I'm just making sure that everyone is active and actually around their computers. So let us get into it. I'm going to give you a summary. Now, we know that from the story of the prodigal son, there is a gentleman who has two sons. One that stayed with him and worked with him throughout, and another that just wanted his 2 cents to carry on or go about his way of life or living. Now, we know that the son that took his 2 cents and went about his way of living, he decided that he was going to go into the city where he would then meet upon a friend, quote unquote, who would influence him to spend his riches. Further down, we will see where the prodigal son, he is now broke and he returns home to his father. When he returns home to his father embraced him with open arms and he welcomed him back home. You know, celebratory dinner and all the works. So, what can be drawn from the story? The prodigal son, he went away, and when he went away and he spent his riches, basically he was turning himself away from his father's teachings, right? He would have had an understanding of what he was supposed to do or what he should do, but yet still he chose to do the opposite. Oftentimes in life, this is what happens to us. We go to church, we study our lessons, we partake in Bible classes, and at the end of the day, we know what is right from wrong. But we tend to venture down this path where we basically fall into this loop or this black hole where we fall into a sinful pit. Now, Is it because we're not well equipped? No, I don't think so. Because you would have been active in church, you would have been doing the things that you ought to do. But what causes it? It is the act of peer pressure. Because imagine if the prodigal son did not meet this so called friend. Do you think that the story would turn around? You can drop a Y in the chat for yes and N in the chat for no. I'll proceed in the meantime. Oh, Samuel says no. So you think you would still do the same thing? Well, let me just continue before I address that. Now, he went, he had his friend, he came, spent his money, did all the evil things that you could think of, came back to his father's house. Now, how much persons, or can we say that after doing the things that we knew were wrong, that our parents would accept us with open arms? Question. Well, it is good that we have a father, not a earthly father, but a spiritual father that will always accept us back into the fold. This doesn't mean that we're supposed to do the things that are wrong, because at the end of the day, you will fall into your judgment seat, right? But it is good that we have a father that always welcomes us with open arms. After we do the things that are wrong and after we have sinned in so much ways, we can turn to him and he will accept us. Now, there is something I want to touch on very quickly before I close off. The other brother, he was not so welcoming of his younger brother. That would be the brother that stayed. Now, we can understand that, the younger brother went out, he gambled and, the works. But he was there with his father, helping out his father with the livestock, helping out his father here and there, doing the things that he knew were right. So here we see this brother being somewhat jealous because the younger brother came back, celebratory feast, and he got stuff that the older brother did not get. Now, the reason why I wanted to highlight this particular part before closing off is that there was something that was said, right? So, for those of us who are continuing on the right path, who are doing what we're supposed to do, it is not a case where we will be, pushed to the side and we won't get that reward that we desire. Here, the father says that, oh, you know what? I am proud of you because you continue to do what I expected you to do. And you have continued to be a part of the fold. So, for those who are out there, there's always a chance to come back. There's always a chance for you to do what is right and change your path. For those who are on the straight and narrow path, it is good that you're on the path. Continue to stay on the path and always continue to do what you know is right. So that is my 2 cents for today. Let us pray. Dear kind and heavenly Father, as we're going to go into this tech talk, I ask that you will be with our internet connections. I ask that you will be with our speaker. Help him to formulate his 2 cents in a way that we will understand and that will be beneficial to us so that we can use it in our lives. As we continue, I just hope that the proceedings will go well and that the persons who are not here will come online shortly. These and other mercies I ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Mr. Lennox, for that wonderful devotion. And at this time, we will be having me doing the opening remarks. So, good afternoon again, everyone. We're so glad to have the few of us that we can have with us today due to a lot of competing events, such as Challenging You and Wellness Wednesday and so on. a lot of people were not able to make our Tech Talk events today, but we are so thankful for the few that we have, and we're so glad that you chose to come out and share with us this afternoon. And so, as you may or may not know, Tech Talks is just a little event every month where we invite someone to share with the students, usually a past student, to share with the students about the different facets of technology, especially how it can relate, how their experience has proven to be beneficial in the field. What are some things to look out for? What are some things that would assist you in the field? So basically, it's just an informative session where you can come and learn more about how to progress in your field as a technology professional. And so that is the end of my very few opening remarks for this afternoon. We will now invite our Public Relations Officer, Ms. Daltonet Griffiths, to give us the introduction of our speaker for this afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. As Imani said, I am Dalton Griffiths, your Public Relations Officer for CHIPS. It was given to this esteemed privilege was given to me to introduce our speaker for today. He is no other than Trevor Williams. So our guest speaker for this afternoon is both a former adjunct lecturer and a proud alum of the Republic. As a student, he was involved in several competitions, including being a 2 times finalist in the prestigious Imagine Cup, traveling to Poland and Egypt, and winning the silver medal in Hearts NTA's National Skills in Web Design competition in 2007. Upon completing his bachelor's in computer science here at the Northern Caribbean University, our speaker went on to earn his master's in applied computer science at Columbus State University, and currently works as a system programmer analyst with the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority and an adjunct lecturer at the Vocational Training and Development Institute. Further afield from his professional achievements, today's dynamic presenter enjoys imparting his vast knowledge based with budding technology enthusiasts and offers several courses on Udemy geared towards sharing key skills in his area. Additionally, he owns and operates a blog and a YouTube channel where he shares even more valuable insights on the field. His 10 years of active involvement in the information technology field, love for his alma mater, and passion for sharing with our upcoming professionals more than qualifies our presenter to share with us this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Trevor Williams.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please confirm that you're hearing me. You can just drop something in the chat or nod.
Yes, we're hearing you loud and clear.
Wow. Let me start off by thanking you guys for inviting me. Thank you, Daltonet, for that introduction. I must say, literally, this was my facial expression while you were doing that. So I sincerely appreciate you saying all those nice things about me. I want to thank the CHIPS executive, namely Imani, for reaching out to me and inviting me. It's an honor to be presenting to you guys. And I want to, of course, acknowledge and thank the CHIPS executive altogether. I would also like to acknowledge Mr. Smith and any other faculty member who might be in this meeting. Mr. Smith, he's he is probably the person who I credit the most with my foundation in this field. He was my first programming teacher. He taught me introduction to programming and other things, and he really set the foundation for me in my career. So special thanks and acknowledgement to Mr. Smith. And like I said, any other faculty member who you might be online, I am not mentioning you, I may not be seeing you or recognizing your name. I apologize, but I just want to acknowledge you at this point. Of course, it's an honor to be invited in this fashion. I know that right now it's a very difficult situation for most of us given the pandemic, everything moving online. I mean, as a lecturer myself, I've had to adjust in like manner. I know it's much more difficult for you as students to kind of keep tabs with everything that's happening. But I chose the topic this afternoon, which is geared towards encouraging you guys to think uh like entrepreneurs while you're in the field of IT, mainly because since the pandemic and with everything moving online and different people are finding different ways to survive, I have seen where it has opened up a lot more opportunities for persons and especially IT professionals to maximize your earning potential. So with that bit of my monologue done, I'm going to switch over to my presentation. uh I will try to keep my webcam on while I present. All right, so here is today we're going to be talking about maximizing your earning potential as an IT professional, sorry. And I'll be going through a few steps that you can take, a few actions you can take, and even more so things you can probably start today or start preparing for from today. All right. um so I actually had a little agenda, just a quick introduction. I'm going to go through 8 suggestions. And some of them I have done, some of them I've tried and failed, some of them I haven't even tried, but I'm still going to suggest them because at the end of the day, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. And sometimes you don't know your strength until you try and fail and then try either the same thing a different way or something else that will work for you. So I'm making suggestions. I'll do my best to be as transparent as possible and draw on my own experiences with these different suggestions. And of course, as you have your questions, I will do my best to answer them as honestly and candidly as possible. And then I'll kind of end with a few key things to consider, after we finish the fairy tale, quote unquote, fairy tale of the possibilities, what are the realities that we will have to face and overcome if we really want to get into certain things. Afterwards, I, of course, will open the floor for questions, but as you probably have questions, you can probably put them in the chat. And if I can address them at the time when I'm speaking, then I will do so. All right. And then I actually had a little slide trying to introduce myself, but that was done so wonderfully. So I'll just skip, well, not skip, I'll just kind of quickly go through this stuff. So as you all would have heard, I attended the Northern Caribbean University. I left in the year 2010. And since then, I've bounced around to a few companies. I've worked at NCU. I worked at the KCT, that's Kingston Container Terminal Services Limited, more affectionately known as WARF by most Jamaican people. I also worked at the Port Authority of Jamaica, which is the government entity that oversees all the ports in Jamaica. I then went to Victoria Mutual Building Society, where I was a system analyst, and I'm now at CIMA, or the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority. I have taught at 3 tertiary institutions. So I used to teach at NCU. I also taught at University College of the Caribbean, and I actively teach at Vocational Training Development Institute, or VTDI for short. I have about 10 years, just over 10 years of experience in IT. Like I said, I graduated 2010 and I got a job almost immediately after graduating, thankfully. I have made a side career out of publishing courses because, I believe in educating people. I don't believe in hoarding knowledge, or at least I've tried to transfer my my knowledge and my lessons from in the classroom and trying to put them in a video form. So even if I don't get to teach you physically, you can still probably benefit from my online content, which is usually either free or very affordable. And I've published across over 5 platforms. I only said 5 here, but quite a few platforms. But I'll get into that later. I'm currently living in the Cayman Islands, as you know, working at SEMA would have probably indicated, and I'm trying to retire at 40. So anybody who shares that vision or shares that dream for me, I'm accepting donations. So feel free to ask me for my banking details at the end of this presentation if you support the vision. So you can you can check out more information on me through my website, my LinkedIn profile, or even my Udemy profile, where you see all my courses listed. The website is a work in progress, so don't be too critical of it. But feel free. I'm sorry, I'm just reading the comments. Feel free to leave any feedback for improvement. I'm somebody who I love to take feedback and improve, which is an attribute that I hope everybody in this room, if you haven't developed it, you're on your way to developing it. So I looked for some quotes, and the one that stood out to me that I think would kind of complement what I want to bring across today is the what's right underneath my picture. Just because you've never done something doesn't mean you can't start. All right. So a lot of the times when we go to pep talks, we get, all these motivational speeches and so on, and we probably feel pumped and enthusiastic at the end of the presentation. We then think about the reality of things, and then what grips us is called fear or anxiety. The fear of failure, the fear that I don't have what it takes to do something. And when I saw that quote, I was thinking, just start, right? Try, and failure is almost inevitable in some things, right? If you're going to fail, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of it, right? I went to NCU and I failed a few critical courses for my degree, but I still got my degree. And after failing, I learned what I did wrong and adjusted myself. All right. So that's what life is all about. And while I was working at VMBS, I was on the internet banking project, and the president, he was very sick and tired of every day we were pushing back deadlines, can't get all this thing. And his mantra was fail fast, because we're taking so long to do proof of concepts and so on, and then later on we'd do this big launch and then everything would fail. But his thing was fail in chunks, fail in pieces, so that you can pick up those pieces and make the next phase better as you go along. All right. So so you have to make sure that you try. It starts with a try. Not because you haven't done it means you can't. All right. So let me get into the next topic, which is reasons for diversifying your source of income. All right. So reasons you may want to do something like that. Well, you want to not be reliant on one source of income, right? Now, the mantra for everybody is multiple streams of income, because they're saying just the 9 to 5 can't get you the house, the 9 to 5 won't get you the mansion, right? You want to, of course, take advantage of the global market, which is not necessarily something that you can do in a 9 to 5, right? Not every 9 to 5 or every conventional bout of employment would give you the opportunity to affect everybody in your own unique way. And of course, you would want to get a head start on some goals and ambitions. So with that in mind, there are opportunities for us IT practitioners. We of course can use technology to our advantage. We can, straddle. I when I was at NCU, my closest friends while I was there, and I used to pride ourselves on our ability to be very malleable. We could fit into any particular role if we needed to. What I failed to appreciate though was the importance of having a business mind, right? So I've developed that over the years, since I've been in the field. And I do have friends who I graduated with who developed that business mind much earlier than I did. So I'm just saying it to you, do not count out the importance of having a business and entrepreneurial mindset. Yes, it's cool when you can write all the if statements and your for loops and you can solve the world's greatest problems and you can build the nicest, prettiest websites with Bootstrap and PHP and all this. That's all of that is cool. But without the business mindset, it will never leave your computer. You're going to do all those wonderful things and it's going to get stuck on your computer because you don't know who to talk to. You don't know how to market the wonderful creation. So always, bear in mind that having that business mindset is very important. Either way, being an IT practitioner means that you have an in-demand and reusable skill set because, especially in the pandemic, we see that now if anybody was afraid of computers before, they've had to embrace computers and technology now. So, you'll be getting more calls now because your cousin who lives down the road heard that you're doing IT, so you can come and set up the printer for them now. And, once you hear that you're doing IT, it means that if the AC stop working, you can fix it. If the coffee machine stop working, you can fix it, right? So to some people, that's what IT is, but it just goes to show how diverse your skill set is and how reusable and in demand it will be. So it's a great opportunity, especially right now, for you to take advantage of what obtains. Now, the first thing that I'm going to suggest as an income earning opportunity is get a good job. And well, I was kind of editing that slide and I forgot to edit it properly, so forgive me. But get a good job and do said job well, or get good jobs and do said jobs well. All right. So I know that a lot of what I just said probably went against the notion of getting a 9 to 5. But what I don't want you to do is discount or discredit the importance of a 9 to 5. 9 to 5s offer stability. They offer certain security that, as an entrepreneur, you might not necessarily get. And there are general benefits. A good job, of course, is relative. Being in a good environment is always good. And a good environment means that you get growth, you get exposure to certain things, and it overall helps you to advance yourself towards your career goals. So my first job was at NCU up by Eunice, right? And I started off as a junior programmer. Now, to me, that was the dream, right? I stepped right out of college, right back into the same college I just stepped out of, but as a professional, actually doing something that I was trained to do. And it was a good incubation area for me because I got to touch certain things, see how the real world works, develop my soft skills meaning your people skills, your emotional intelligence. Because prior to doing my degree, I used to say I chose computers because I didn't like people, right? I used to wear a badge on my chest saying I am antisocial and proud, right? that was my brand going into college. But during my years in college, I realized that's not how the real world works. And even more so in the office space, that's not how it works. You have to be able to relate to different people with different problems at different times of the day. And most people start off with a 9 to 5. Once again, this is where you can actually develop how your personality as a professional will be for years going forward. And on top of that, don't shy away from having multiple sources of income or multiple jobs, because I started working at Eunice, but then I started teaching in the evenings at NCU also. And then shortly after, I started teaching there and VTDI while working the 9 to 5. So I saw people saying they can't donate to me because you're strapped for cash. That's fine. When I was working, I was very strapped for cash, very strapped for cash. But guess what? What NCU couldn't pay me in terms of the 9 to 5, the teaching job could help with, and working at VTDI could also help with. So, when you pull all of that together, I'm getting 3 rounds of developing people and soft skills. I'm getting 3 sources of income right there. And, I got to meet a lot of persons, share experiences, and overall become very rounded. That's the way I feel that I left that episode of my life, right? Of course, after a while you may feel that you outgrow your environment. It's not always about the money. Sometimes it's just about where you need your career to go. So after a while, I actually left NCU, went to the Kingston Container Terminal, which is not a famed IT institution. And that's, for them, IT was the AC stopped working, called the IT department. The phone stopped working, called IT department. Everything was the IT department. One guy called the IT department saying that the cup holder in his computer stopped working. He was actually talking about the CD drive, you understand? So I'm just saying, it was not an IT environment at all, but that is where I actually got to see another side of life. And how to relate to people who probably weren't as tech savvy, because the knowledge of IT coming from the NCU environment versus going to the wharf there were days, the worlds apart. So, it helped me to develop a certain amount of patience and understanding towards people and so on. And then eventually, I started teaching again part-time at UCC and VTDI. So, don't rule out getting a standard job. This presentation is not to say don't get a job. It is to say make sure you get the most out of whatever job you are doing, and be careful not to get stuck or stagnated, but know when it is time to grow and move on. All right. Next up, I want to mention something that actually has worked for me, or has been working for me, which is creating educational material in forms of videos and tutorials. So I want to start off by saying you can start this today, right? This is not something that you need to wait until you have 5 years of working experience, which for some of you might be 8 years from now or 4 years from now. You don't necessarily have to wait that long. You can start with what you know. A YouTube channel is free. You have a Gmail email address, you have a YouTube account right there. That's implied. So you don't have to necessarily be an expert to start with this one. You can just start with what you know. Everybody in this presentation, I'm sure, has done introduction to C++ or introduction to programming, or you're doing introduction to programming. Everybody here should know how to print hello world. Start with that. All right. So as you start small and you develop, you see that you can actually do more. And then when you start, you realize that I don't know how to do these things, and nothing's wrong with not knowing. That's that we're all human. You're not going to know everything. So when you realize what you don't know, when you recognize your deficiencies, you go and learn it. And then I'm kind of the person who I reinforce by teaching, which is probably why I've taught so many years, because if I don't know something, I'll always try and teach it back. I'll talk to myself. Right now my wife thinks I'm crazy, right? But I'll do that. I'll always talk aloud and reinforce things. So you can actually do that to help yourself to learn as you are along this journey. So start with what you know. You don't necessarily need to have a university level degree or profession or qualification to start making money through this route. You can start with a simple YouTube channel and make tutorials on topics that you're comfortable with. And then, as you put the topics together one by one, you'd realize that you probably would have taught an entire course, because programming is really just building blocks. How to print, how to receive input, how to manipulate it, if statements, the different control structures, not getting too specific or anything. But after 10 or so videos, you'd realize that, wow, I've actually created that programming course. And then when you share that on YouTube, somebody who might have internet but not the opportunity to attend NCU or attend a university, but they want to learn programming, might actually stumble upon your channel, like your videos, and then you get watch time, you get likes, and you get subscribers, right? And on top of that, you would have gained more and more experience with your presentation skills, your video editing skills, whatever it is, all of those to make you a more rounded and complete person. So then after a while, after a few videos, you'd realize, oh, wow, I actually created a course. So then you could step it up from just YouTube, because YouTube is an excellent place to get started. And in the long run, you can make money from that. But you would be able to move from just YouTube to putting your courses on other platforms like Udemy or Skillshare, Tutorials Point. You have Udacity. You have a number of them. BitDegree. You have so many platforms, right? And then the more and more you do this, the more visibility you get. Other platforms will reach out to you. So there's another company that has reached out to me named Pact. That's PACKT. They saw my courses on Udemy. They saw how many students I had, and they were like, hey, I would really love for you to put your stuff on my platform also. Their own is more invitation only. So I made the videos already. How much more effort did it take for me to put my videos on their platform? None. All I had to do was upload the videos to a folder, and then they did the rest. You understand? Because I already made the videos. So these are assets that I actually made, money-making assets that are reusable. They're on Udemy. The same courses are on Udemy, on Skillshare, and I have some of them on Tutorials Point also. I've tried other platforms. Not all platforms work. But as I said, diversify, try different things. Some might work for you, some might not. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be IT tutorials. There might be something that you have as a hobby, something else that you like to do. Just think along those lines. Be entrepreneurial. All right. So next up, I guess this one runs right into the question that just came in the chat. So you can be a tutor. So you can start off with tutoring somebody who is close to you, right? You may have somebody else who is doing programming, maybe at the same level as you, or in an earlier year than you are. You can tutor that person. You can go on platforms like Code Mentor, and there was a platform that I couldn't remember the name of the platform. I would have to dig into my email to see what their name is, but they actually invited me to be a tutor because they facilitate live tutoring sessions like that also. And then even without the help of a platform, you can get private clients to tutor or mentor via Zoom or Google Hangouts, whatever it is. So I do tutoring. I have had persons probably who have taken a course of mine, and then they like whatever they liked. I don't know. I'm not going to speak to what they liked or didn't like, but they reached out to me personally to say, hey, I have this project working on. I'd like your guidance. And then we set up a standing appointment, like every Saturday at 11, I have an appointment where we just log on to Zoom, and he shares control of his computer, and we work through whatever project, right? And this started off in the heights of COVID lockdown, right? So that was like maybe May, June, thereabout last year. That's when he contacted me, right? And most of the equipment, I hope he's not on this recording, but most of the equipment that I've bought since then, I bought from income through tutoring him, right? So none of that came out of my paycheck, right? So those little things can help you to build up your money. So yes, I do offer tutoring on certain requests, but of course, I would encourage you guys that you can start doing that. Once again, it could be IT, it could be something else. Once you consider yourself proficient on the subject matter, then don't shy away from the opportunity to monetize it. All right, so the last point I have here is that you can gain traction based on your educational publications on other platforms. So like I said, they may have done a Udemy course or a Skillshare course, and they liked it, contacted me one away for a tutoring / mentoring / consultancy type arrangement. So the next up would be to create a blog or contribute written content. So this would be kind of similar to creating videos, except obviously not videos, you're more writing. Um, so starting a blog or your own website, it can be a scary prospect when you think about it, but it can be I'm going to say it's very easy to do, right? There's nothing too difficult about it. Of course, it requires some amount of investment upfront, as with anything else, pretty much, but it can be done. You have platforms like WordPress. So whether you're going to build your WordPress site yourself, as in get the WordPress and customize it yourself, or you go to WordPress.com, which is the SaaS version or the service version of WordPress that allows you to just go on and choose a theme and click, click, click. It's more like a site builder, but the end result is that you can have a decent enough looking website that acts as your own blog. So you can do that. And blogging doesn't have to be anything too difficult, right? I mean, you learn how to do something, you write an article saying, this is how I learned it. Or you learned how to print Hello World, you write an article saying, I learned how to print Hello World. I also learned how to accept user input and print it back. Except you're not going to say, I learned how to. You would be saying, this is how you would learn, this is how you can do it. Because you've already learned it. Now you're going to educate the masses on what they don't know. That's all a blog post really is. So you have many platforms that can support that. Even if you don't want to start off with WordPress.com or your own website, you can start on even LinkedIn. Create your LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn has, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the construct that they have, but they do have something like a paper, like a blog kind of thing. So you being a LinkedIn user, you can go on and write your own posts and they would be directly linked to your profile. So if somebody clicks on your profile, they see the post. Yeah. Or they see the post and click on the post and they like the post, they click on your profile and then they see, oh, well, this person looks like they know what they're talking about. Maybe I should send them a direct message and ask them to start up a business opportunity, I see Mario here, he's mentioning Medium. So I do have Medium mentioned here. So Medium and dev.to, those are two sites. So I have contributed to both. Medium, well, dev.to doesn't pay, but it does have a huge following. So sometimes it's not necessarily that you're going to get money directly from your contributions. Sometimes it is that the contribution helps you to market something else. So when I was on dev.to, I got quite a bit of traffic. I would publish stuff about like database manipulation, database scripts, and use that opportunity to market my YouTube channel and my database videos, and sometimes even my database development course on Udemy. And I used to get quite a bit of traffic through that. So dev.to didn't pay me, but through them, I got more subscribers or more purchases for my courses. Medium actually will pay you. They will pay royalties. So you can publish behind what they call the paywall. And the more traffic your article gets from persons who have subscribed to Medium, the more royalties you get. The downside to Medium is that you have to, as far as I've seen, they cater only to first world countries or citizens of first world countries. So, I don't have any US papers, SSN or bank accounts. I actually made a few dollars and then I couldn't get it because then they flagged my account saying, wait, you're not one of us. So, those are the things that you have to look out for. And I'll talk about that later on, as in little caveats when it comes to these things. So if you were to publish your own website, though, you would have the opportunity to put on your own ads. So I'm sure everybody in this forum has been on at least jacars.net, and especially before they rebranded to something so beautiful. Before, if not, jacars.net was not the most beautiful website ever, right? But what he did was he had a huge enough following that he got a lot of web traffic. And on top of that, he advertised, he used Google ads. So the more traffic he got, the more visible his ads were. The more visible his ads were, the more money he made. So he didn't make money from um, telling me that I have to pay to post my car. Doing that was free. But guess what? While I'm posting the car, ads are being presented to me. So if I'm posting the car, I'm literally paying him to post the car because I have to look at the advertisements while I'm doing it. If you're looking for a car, you're paying him to look for cars for free. But guess what? Google is paying him because you're seeing the ads. So even it's the same dynamic with like a blog. If you start up your own website, you can let Google advertise on your website. So when people are reading the blog article, the ads are there. And it's the same dynamic with YouTube. When ads are on your videos, that's when you start getting paid, right? So that's how you can make money or generate revenue through ads and traffic to your website. Outside of that, when persons, like I said, when persons see that you're becoming a big name or an expert in the space, they will start to give you endorsements, sponsorships. Um, Back when I first had my website, before now, Pact, the same company that now publishes my courses, that reached out to me back then, and they actually used to only publish books. I think they're just getting into the video courses space, but then they only did books. And the arrangement was, please do a blog article reviewing this book and you'll get 3 books in exchange. Now for me, that was payment enough because the book I got to review was on a subject I didn't know, and I could choose any other 3 books on subjects that I really, really wanted to know more about, right? So that was a win-win because they got more exposure for their publication, and I got more knowledge in exchange to then put in more blogs. So it's sometimes it's not necessarily monetary. For me, knowledge is power. And for any IT professional, knowledge is definitely going to be power. So, of course, you pick your battles as you see the most reward might come from, right? So, like I said earlier, some platforms are pay-per-view like Medium, SidePoint, Exposed, and there are others. And then some platforms, like I was invited to one recently called Educative. If I can find the URL, I'll drop it in the chat in a few. But Educative, I think .io, they pretty much would invite you or encourage you, being an author, to publish a course, but it's just text-based. So it's just a bunch of, it's almost like doing a book, but you're doing a course. So it's almost like a cross of a book and a video tutorial, but you're just writing it and it's not really a published book, right? But the point is that somebody who is a member of the website would be paying maybe $100 a year to access these things. Once they're doing your own, they're going to pay you royalties for it. So that is money while you sleep. And that's how you get to retire by 40, right? So, I'm just shooting the ideas as they come along. So that's something else you can consider. Now, freelancing, of course, kind of goes hand in hand with my first point of having multiple streams of income, multiple jobs. So freelancing is probably the most obvious suggestion. Most places would say, yeah, man, freelance. In your spare time, freelance, Somebody wants a website. Yes, sir, I can do the website for you. Whether you're a student or you're working, you can do that on the side. You just need to have a good enough handle of the technologies and a good knowledge of the inner workings of certain things. But that is something that you can always do. Freelancing is pretty much trading your time for money, and it helps you to gain more experience outside of your 9 to 5, because sometimes as a freelancer, you might end up doing things that are not required in your day job. So that's still something you can put on your resume so that when you see a role that is requiring these things and paying better, you're still in a position to apply, even though it's not necessarily something that your day job would have given you much experience in. So freelancing is always good to help you to improve as an IT professional. It's not passive, it's not the most passive. So a lot of what I've said so far kind of relates to passive income, like the blog. You write the Medium article or write the article one time, people will be viewing it for months, probably even years. Like today, I saw an article on Medium on a topic that I thought was very interesting, and I read through it. And then at the end of it, I realized that this thing was published in 2019, still very relevant. So this person wrote this article once, maybe edited it a few times since then, but he did it once, and it's making him money right now. Granted, I found a way around the paywall. So if you want to know how to do that, you can link me. Just leave a comment below. But but my point is that I mean, I'm one of 8 billion persons, or just about, in this world. So if he is getting 1 million persons to that article at $1 each, what does that make him? Do the math, right? So becoming a tutor, that's not very passive, but creating educational content, that's also passive, because when people are watching your videos on YouTube or buying your course while you sleep, you're sleeping, you're getting money, passive income, right? So passive income is nice, but some of them will require some effort, like freelancing. So that requires discipline. It requires certain amounts of knowledge, and definitely dedication, because you can do it at any time, but it's sometimes difficult after a long day of work to come home and stare at your screen again to write code for somebody. But it can be rewarding. Sometimes you can get good money for projects that are not the most difficult things to do. And then you have different marketplaces like Upwork, Fiverr, Freelancer, and I'm sure that there are others. These are the most popular ones, of course. That being said, they are saturated, but I'll talk about that later on. All right. Next up, build an online store. Bet you guys never saw that one coming. So, why you're probably wondering, okay, what does an online store and an IT person have in common? So, the thing is that you have multiple frameworks that support online stores. And then since about the past 8 years, there has been a trend in online shopping, or online store. What should I say? More like goods distribution. Let's put it that way. There's a trend in goods distribution called drop shipping, right? So drop shipping is pretty much a technique where I don't stock the item, but I find somebody who does, and then all I do is present a store like front facing app to would-be buyers, right? So I set up an online store. Buyers come, they see what they want, they buy, they leave the shipping information, everything, blah. I don't have the item, so all I do is move this information to a third party who does have the item, and tell this third party, please send the item to that person, and please don't tell them it's you it coming from. Make it look like it's me, but it's really you doing the work, right? So the customer would have paid me $50, and I know I sourced the item for $20. So I pay you $20 until you send it over to Samuel Wilson, who lives at X place, but I call it, so that's a $30 profit for me. Now, with other platforms like Shopify, which is mentioned in the second point, Shopify's whole business model is designed around facilitating drop shipping, and even more so automating it. So you, as an IT person, you can easily set up a Shopify account, or store. You can actually make a business out of setting up Shopify stores for people too. Because when somebody says, oh, I want an online store, they don't know anything. That's why they come to you, right? You can easily give them a Shopify store, right? Shopify is literally just a website builder for e-commerce websites. And then for yourself, you can find an item that you know is probably in demand. I know a lot of the times Instagram and Facebook, they're always popping up these little weird gadgets that nobody has ever seen, these little variations of things. And all the websites, you look at it, all the websites kind of have the same design. 9 out of 10 of them, they are Shopify websites. And at least 6 out of 10 of them are doing drop shipping. So when you buy that item from that website, you're probably paying like a 60% markup. And all that's happening in the background is that Shopify collected your information, collected your payment, gave it to the seller, or the person who owns the store, but collected your information and automatically pass it along to the third party application that this website is associated with. So when you get your item, you think that you bought it from the website, but the website really just took your stuff and passed it along to a third party. So that's how dropshipping works. And literally, as an IT person, it is so easy for you to, that's just snappy, set up a store, make the connections, make the store look pretty, whether you buy or build a nice theme, because we all are web developers here in some right? Um, that's passive income once again, because you don't have to get involved. Only when probably there are disputes and people want refunds and so on, you have to get involved. But for 80% of the time, loose statistic at least, you would be able to not have to do anything. I'll actually drop a URL right here, and this is I live for him collection.com. This is a Shopify site that my friends and I launched just 2 weeks ago, right? So you can browse it, appreciate the patronage, if anything. But I'm just showing you that that is something that I was able to accomplish. I'm the only IT person in the group. I set it up. They're doing the business side of it. I just did the technology. I don't have anything else to do but to collect money while I sleep. People go on, buy the shirt. It's connected to a third-party service that will just print the shirt and send it to whoever purchased it, right? So that's something you can also think about. Next up, build and sell an app or service. So an app or service, that's kind of broad. So let me kind of narrow it down to what exactly I mean. One, everywhere is being data driven now. Everybody wants data. Everybody's willing to pay for data. People want data, but don't want to do the hard work to get data. Nowadays, APIs are the way that people are connecting to various systems without needing to do too much development work. So if you can tap into some data source and then provide an API for that data, and then people want that data, then you charge them for access to the data. Boom, passive income. Of course, upfront effort aside, the rest of it and maintenance along the way, the rest of it is passive, right? So I know somebody who created an oil prices API. So pretty much all this API does is show oil prices, maybe the fluctuations of oil prices every half an hour or 50 minutes or something like that. And he was making like $24,000 a month, and I'm not talking about Jamaican dollars here, right? So imagine $24,000 a month. If you are making 24,000 US dollars a month living in the US, you're comfortable. Imagine making that while you're in Jamaica. You'd live like a queen or king, sorry. Right? You would be very, very comfortable. And that's all passive, right? So you can think about that, build an API that people will want to use, and then charge them for access. You can build a mobile app. So a mobile app that solves a problem. Some people build games. Sure, I'm not really. I love to play games, but I'm not going to pride myself on being one of those game programmers. I'm not like that. I'm not wired that way. But I do have a colleague, Mr. Smith would remember him, Markel, who built some games that he made a good chunk of money. He's also an alum of NCU, right? He made a good chunk of money from his free games because people went, downloaded the games, loved the games, playing the games. Ads are popping up every second. Of course, not too distastefully, but when you have millions of people viewing your ads, playing the games while you're sleeping, sorry, my throat is getting a little dry. Right, sorry. So you have people playing these games while you are relaxing, then that is passive income once again. Another thing you can think of is building like a theme or some boilerplate template and selling that. So, you have Bootstrap. I don't know how many of you know about Bootstrap. Probably if you've done web development, you'd know about Bootstrap. If not, that's fine. But Bootstrap is just a template or let's say it's a template that you can use on your website. What people do is take that template and make variations of it, because there are certain standards that every website for a certain purpose will have. So if you make your own variation of that kind of layout, then you can sell it for $50, for $30, etc. And the more purchases you get, once again, passive income, right? You build it one time, you leave it on a marketplace and collect your royalties. Marketplaces could be like Theme Forest, Envato.com, Code Canyon. There are a number of places, right? You can also think of building plugins for common open source projects like WordPress, OpenCart, even like the e-commerce, even like Shopify. People build third-party plugins for Shopify that do things that all stores need. So you could build a plugin that automatically sends emails to people, or automatically, automate something. So just think of maybe a task that you think is one menial, too tedious, and think of building something that can automate that task. I have another friend, her husband, he was a civil engineer. And civil engineers, if you're in the right job, you're not going to be poor. This man left his civil engineering job because he was able to write a WordPress plugin that basically minified your website assets. So his WordPress plugin would reduce the size of your CSS files and certain JavaScript files and everything, and increase maybe your website's load time by 5 seconds. Right, which in the internet is a lot of seconds to to shave off of a website's load time, right? My point is that he was making so much money from selling that plugin versus selling the service of installing the plugin on people's website, that he was able to leave his 9 to 5 and be collecting some copious amounts of money at the time, right? So there are opportunities out there. It's just a matter of finding which one you fit into. In more recent times, open source, the very definition of open source is free, right? Open source is equal to free. But then, of course, when you're doing something for free, you're not as motivated. So what GitHub has done is they launched a sponsorship program where if you make an open source project that, say, a company likes and uses, that company can opt into sponsoring you, the developer. So you're working on a free project, but companies that are using your free code are sponsoring it to make sure that you maintain it. Because if you maintain it, then they don't have to, right? So yeah, you can think about that. Or Patreon. That should be Patreon. I'm sorry, that's a typo of Patreon. That should be Patreon. Right? So Patreon allows you to kind of sell access to open source projects also. All right. And then we have investing in cryptocurrency. I know a lot of you were waiting on that one because that's probably like every IT person's new currency. And then I just put on or just invest, right? So like I've said it before, it's not always about IT. Yes, you want to make your IT skills make sense, make money for you. You went to school for it, you want it to work for you and your career. Really and truly, I'm just going to say this, I'm tired. Right? I've worked and worked and worked. It's been 10 arduous years of IT work. I'm tired. So really and truly, I'm just looking for ways to not write anymore, not write any more code, and as quickly as possible, right? Of course, everybody's reality is different, but when you talk about cryptocurrency, you're talking about Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, and you have a number of other coins all over the place. It can be rewarding to buy into it. I see somebody saying that you have some coins sitting somewhere. That's good. Means you can probably contribute some of the money to my retirement fund. So I'll talk to you after this. No problem. But mining it, you have to remember that mining it can take a lot of investment upfront, right? So it's not a matter of, oh, I want to get into crypto and I just put down a computer and mine. There are people who have bought out acres of land and they have server farms dedicated to trying to mine one Bitcoin. Of course, Bitcoin has been around, so it's much harder to mine that. But then you have other coins that probably will be easier to mine, but are not as valuable. So it's a trade-off. Which one do I do, right? Trying to buy a Bitcoin now, you'd have to have what, 20? No, it's not 20 anymore. It's about $50,000, 50,000 US dollars. Okay, see, there's 60,000 US dollars to buy one Bitcoin. You might end up spending that much money in energy bills and equipment trying to mine it anytime soon, right? So you can make your decision on that one. But outside of crypto, I would say general investments are always good, right? Because you've been working. You may have been doing all of what I suggested and been making money. Personally, I don't know how sustainable my online courses are. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to maintain this amount of income from them because technology moves so quickly. Just this year, I published 3 courses on .NET 5. .NET 6 is coming out next month. So now I'm either going to have to publish 3 more on .NET 6 or try and find a way to modify the content on .NET 5 so that it can stay relevant. You understand? So technology is always moving, it's always evolving. So on a personal note, I don't know how long that kind of income, how sustainable that is going to be in the near future. So personally, I've been investing in stocks and real estate, and I'm just going to say this to you guys. You don't have to be a millionaire to get started, right? Stocks, you don't have to be a millionaire. Investment, real estate is different, but general stocks, general unit trust, and mutual funds, if you have an extra money, I know we already kind of said, yeah, we're broke university students and so on. But believe you me, if I had the financial intelligence I have now, if I had that in my NCU days, I probably would not have to be working this hard, because if I knew how to manage my money from then and put in a little stock and buy my 1 and 2 units and so on, stocks that were for $3 but then are now almost $100 now, right? So you see there, and I'm just talking about the Jamaican stock exchange. Samuel is mentioning the Tesla stock, right? So I actually had bought into Tesla back in the early day, and then he made some announcement and the stock went like this and I sold out, and now the stock is gone like that, right? So I mean, at the end of the day, you win some, you lose some, but I'm just putting it out there that you don't have to be a millionaire to start investing. And and then real estate is another very good one. So when you reach a certain level with the other investments, you start looking to real estate for much longer term growth, of course. Ultimately though, in between all of that, use up your IT skills, right? There are always people who want to automate their investments, right? People want to buy and sell while they sleep or do this and that. Forex trading, stock trading. You have many APIs out there that allow you access to systems. If you could build a system where somebody can just put in, in a few keystrokes and say, this is what I expect, and then your algorithm does the rest and buys and sells. I'm simplifying it a bit because it's a bit more complicated than that, and you do have to have some knowledge of the business to be able to do that. But the point is that you are an IT person. So even if you partner with somebody who has the business know-how and can't write the code, you can write the code but don't have the business know-how. Between the two of you, you can create a system that takes care of the needs of millions of persons and charge them for it while you're at it, right? So those are things that you can also look into. Now, I'm closing down or kind of winding down. I want to point out a few things that you'd want to consider when you're going to start any of these ventures. One, there's always room for improvement. So on a personal level, don't stop upskilling yourself. Don't stop learning. On the other note, when you do something, think of it as a draft. There's always room for improvement, right? So always be willing to expand yourself, extend your knowledge, and improve on whatever product it is that you have put forward. Sometimes that product is out there already and you can't do anything about it. But think of like Windows, Google, Facebook. You notice that they're always sending out updates. Your Facebook app is always updating. Windows is always updating. It's not because Microsoft likes you. It's because Microsoft did something and they did it wrong and they're trying to fix it. So they give it a nice fancy name and call it an update. All they're doing is fixing mistakes, right? So mistakes are inevitable, right? Don't beat yourself up because you didn't get it right the first time. Use that experience to improve upon it the second, third, and fourth time. All right. As it relates to payments, so I did say I was going to mention this later on. So one of the disadvantages with being in a developing country is that the international payments treaties sometimes are not favorable. So this can be one of the most daunting and what's the word I'm looking for? One of the most, all right, let's just say one of the scariest things that would prevent you from getting started, because it's hard to imagine that you put up your course on, you know, you spent hours doing a course and you put it on Udemy and you can't get the money. Right. So that actually happened to me about the first year I was on Udemy. I made probably a collective $400 that year, right? But I couldn't touch the money because it went to PayPal, and PayPal doesn't allow me to transfer to my Jamaican bank account. And worse, the pandemic hit. So when I could finally afford a plane ticket to go to the US to go make a bank account, I couldn't because COVID, right? So that can be one of the things. But then I am going to point out some of the victories that I've had. So all right, so Samuel is giving us a pro tip. He's saying that if you go on work and travel, you get a social security number and a US bank account. So there you go. So that good thinking, Samuel. So with that now, you can easily tap into PayPal. I never did work and travel. I don't even know if work and travel was a thing when I was in school. Or if it was, I never heard of it. But hey, so that is something you could actually do to help with that, right? So with Udemy actually will pay you directly to your bank account. So I figured that out earlier last year, about February or March last year, that Udemy partners with a platform called Payoneer. So you can take your money from PayPal or from Payoneer, and then Payoneer will give you a card that you can use internationally, or you can transfer to your bank account in almost any country. You have the option of if you're using YouTube uses AdSense, so you would have set up an AdSense account, which is the same account that would publish ads to your website, or YouTube would actually attribute that account to advertising on your videos. So when your channel gets monetized, you're making money probably from both that and your website. AdSense will actually wire the money to your Jamaican bank account also. So, you know, there are some platforms that will work for you. There are some that will not. Like Shopify is more difficult, which is why I had to partner with friends. I had to partner with somebody who is in the States, who has a social security number, who has a social security number and a bank account. So at least, we can handle the cash flow like that. So you have to consider these things. Do your research, but where there's a will, there is going to be a way. All right. Building an audience is very essential. So as with anything, when you're starting out with any business, you want to make sure that there's demand for you. I'm going to go on a limb and say everything is saturated now. So don't look and say, oh, YouTube, everybody has a C++ tutorial, it's saturated. Don't do that, right? Because, I mean, if you look at athletes, every athlete, as soon as they're about to retire, they launch a clothing brand. And the world is not short of clothing brands, right? So what's going to make me buy your brand and not Under Armour, which has been around for years, right? Everybody has a value proposition. So don't look on and say it's saturated or there's enough of that, so I won't do that. Yes, there's room for that, and if you're unique enough, you can slither your way into a niche. Fine, I'm not saying no, but don't use that to discredit yourself or what you have to offer. All right. So building an audience is essential to starting off. You need an audience to start a YouTube channel. You have to have what, 1,000 subscribers minimum before you can start making money. I actually just used last year to really take that serious, and I got monetized last year, October. Since then, my channel has tripled in terms of subscribers, right? I'm not doing anything special. So there's always something out there for somebody. And then the bigger that audience is, the more people I have to market my real money making courses to. And then I have 200 and odd thousand students on Udemy to market my YouTube channel too. So, some things are free, some things are paid. Some people will pay for it, some people want free stuff, and it's just a blend. So everything put together. So always try to build an audience, market your stuff, set up your website as best as possible. Um, and yeah, you're not always guaranteed success, as we know with everything. Upfront investments are going to be needed, and you might not get instant returns. You have to prepare yourself for negative feedback. Everybody has their own agenda and expectations, so you might cater to 70% of the persons but not the other 30%. I have had a guy, one dude, take 3 of my courses, and listen to me closely. One dude, 3 courses, 1-star rating each. In each review, he said, I'm a terrible teacher. One guy, 3 courses, 1-star each. And in each review, he said, I'm a terrible teacher. Now, you think that after me being a terrible teacher in the first course, he would leave me alone. No, he went and took a second course to tell me I'm still a terrible teacher. Then he went to take a third course to say, I'm still a terrible teacher. The only reason he takes my course is because I'm a brilliant programmer. So I'm like, dude, like, as a Jamaican would say, what you for? Like, yeah, So, and someone is saying he's a fan. Probably, I don't know. But you have to be prepared for negative feedback. At this point, I've seen so much negative feedback that I've used it to strengthen myself, and I just appreciate that I can't cater to everyone. So when you do get the negative feedback, yes, you're going to be sad. Yes, you're going to be all up in your feelings because, like, even at school at VTD, they ask the students to review the lectures. I scroll past the good ones. I only want to see the bad ones because that's where my improvement is, right? I want to see what didn't you like about me so I can know how can I fix it. Sometimes it's foolishness and I ignore it, but sometimes they're legit, right? So always be prepared for negative feedback. There's no silver bullets. There's no do this and you'll be rich. As you've seen, I gave you a number of options and I've pointed out caveats along the way. So you just have to try and see which one works for you. And when you start enjoying success in one, you try another one and you just mix and match as you need to. And, just make sure you try things and see what works for you. So with all that said and done, guys, I hope I didn't bore you to death with that monologue. I do appreciate the opportunity to come and share these things with you. And I guess I'll open the floor for questions if time isn't completely gone. So I'm going to hand over to, I don't know, who's the moderator? Maybe Imani.
I am moderating the question section.
Yeah.
So, are there any questions? We thank you, Mr. Williams, for that was a wonderful presentation, a very informative presentation. And so now we do open our floor for questions. Is there anybody who has anything to ask based on anything that you would have heard, based on anything that you would have seen? Are there any questions? Any questions, any comments, feedback, concerns? No questions. Wow. When they say there are no
You did a good
questions,
job.
right? Yes, a very good job indeed. Oh, I see Garcia has raised her hand. Go ahead, Garcia.
I enjoyed the presentation, especially the part that says that we have to be patient with persons at the beginning when you were mentioning that, even though we might know some things regarding technology, because for me, that is one of my problems. I'm kind of impatient. So, yeah, that's what stuck with me the most. That when we learn these things and how it has helped you to be patient. That's if I want to learn one thing as regards to helping persons with technology.
All right, that's good. Yeah, man. Patience goes a far way, and it does help you to build respect and rapport with people you interact with. So, practice makes permanent.
Miss Renee is asking, how can she get tutoring for programming courses? How can she get
Oh,
tutoring for programming courses?
well, Rani, what you can do is probably reach out to me, one away, and we can discuss. I'll just put my email address here in the chat. So you can shoot me an email and we can discuss that. No problem.
Radish is asking if it's possible for him to borrow the PowerPoint.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'll just clean it up. I'll fix those spelling errors, and I can probably, oh no, I can probably share with you, Imani, and you can distribute it if needs be.
All right. Okay, great. Are there any further questions? Any more comments, concerns, feedback? Anything else anybody would like to share? I see Samuel has raised a hand. Go ahead, Samuel.
Well, I don't have any questions, but I just want to say thank you, Mr. Williams, for sharing with us. I took many tips away from it, and it was good, very informative.
All right. Yes, I appreciate that. I'm glad that the information has done right by you. No problem. Oh, I'm
So
sorry,
Daltonet is
Imani.
asking,
Yeah.
are you hearing me now?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Did I forget? Okay. I was asking if she can quit school now, since she has told, since she's learned how to money. I
Um,
do believe Dalton that would be
I'm
entirely up to you.
Yeah, I'm going to say that I have mixed feelings about that one, Dalton. It's the reason being, both my parents strongly believed in education. So between myself and my two siblings, we all have minimum bachelor's degrees. That was non-negotiable in my household. But then since then, the world has evolved to a point where you have people dropping out of school and becoming billionaires, right? I'm not going to say yes, drop out of school, and I'm not going to say that school is absolutely essential. Everybody has their story, everybody has their path in this world. I have a friend, we would have graduated together. He didn't graduate, he still hasn't graduated with his bachelor's degree, but he's in Silicon Valley right now having tea with Elon Musk. you know, and I'm here trying to do online courses with my 2 degrees. So everybody is going to have their own path, and then you have billionaires out there. Elon Musk himself has his degrees and he's a billionaire. So do what works for you. I would say do them simultaneously. There's nothing better than making money while you're learning how to make more money. Right.
And Mario's question is, outside of C Sharp, what other technologies have you been using so far?
So I have used PHP, that entire LAMP stack, Apache, PHP, MySQL / MariaDB. I am proficient in those. C Sharp has been the most prevalent thing. C Sharp, .NET, and Microsoft technologies. That has been prevalent because most of my career has had me do jobs that require that skill set. But that being said, I appreciate programming to a point where it's all of that is transferable knowledge. I've had to do Python technologies before. It was just a matter of transferring the fact that I know how to write a program in C, C++, C Sharp, Java, and do it in Python. Right. So yes, C sharp, but pretty much I think of myself as language agnostic.
All right, so we have time for one last question. If there's any more question. Okay, so Dalton is asking what made you venture into the technology field.
Okay. So the thing is that when I was in high school, I was actually all right. In my generation, because I'm at least 10 years older than everybody here, so I waited a long time to be able to say that. Back in my day, um, most of us were being told you need to be a doctor or a lawyer. Like growing up, that's all I heard: doctor, lawyer, doctor, lawyer. So, I had doctor, med school on my mind. Um, I think when I got to like grade 10, fourth form, thereabout, I did an IT class and I realized that I was the best in IT in the class. And that's not a brag, it's just I had a computer at home. I was always doing things. I used to burn CDs, I had the internet, dial-up internet. I was one of few people, I think one of two people for the first 3 years of high school with a CD burner and the internet. So I used to do music, movies, games, all of those things. I had my own little hustle, right? So by the time I got to fourth form, fifth form, I realized that what I was learning in IT was stuff that I was doing from day one. Like people are just learning this stuff. This is what I did when I was in first form. So by the time I did CXC, it's like I didn't really care for medicine at all. I realized I was only thinking about medicine because my parents told me you need to be a doctor, which is not the worst advice. I mean, parents always want what's best for their child, and they always want to walk up and down that and say that they have a doctor for a son. But so I chose that's really how I ended up doing. I no, not ethically, Adrian. Thank you for pointing that out. But um, so that's how I got into IT. When I went to NCU, my father told me point blank, I better make this work because he wanted me to be a doctor. I'm not being a doctor, so he's only sending me to school because he promised me a first degree, but after that, he's done with me. Hurt at the time, but I appreciate it now. And I can tell you that my father is very, very proud of my decision. He's one of the proudest fathers in Jamaica, probably. But just to say that's how, yeah, Jamaican parents. So that's just how I got into, IT pretty much. And thank you, Adrian.
All right, so we have come to the end of what was a very informative session, what was a fun session, what was an entertaining yet educational session. And at this time, I will hand over to our president, Mr. President himself, Mr. Adrian Smith, who will be doing our closing remarks.
Hey, so good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, I would like to thank the individuals that were in charge of putting this all together. Imani, Radish, Dalton, and everyone else. This is an amazing event, even though it's not the turnout that we would have liked, but I'm happy that the people that were here, they enjoyed the session as much as I did and attained so many new things, new information, new ways to make money, and that was the key thing that standed out for me. I was I was drawn to all of that. Secondly, and last but not least, I have to thank you, Miss, for being here today. Taking time out from making your many money you speak about to come here and just speak to us. It was very, I would say, breathtaking. I'm also a past student of UTDI as well, and just to hear a lot of similarities in how your mannerisms, how you came up to the person you are today, it really resonated with me, and I'm sure a lot of other students here in the CS department, and for those who are joining us as well who are not from the CS department, it's just amazing just to hear. Yeah, it's a lot of similarities. Trust me. I can't. I don't even want to get into that because it's going to be another 1 hour, and I know people have things to do. But thank you so much. Um, it was very inspirational hearing how you turned your failures into what you are doing now. A lot of us do fail and we we take it hard and we're like, "Ah, I don't want to do this anymore." But just hearing your words of encouragement and wisdom, it's really going to push us further than where we expected that we could have been. And, your last remark about your parents, that hit home for a lot of us. Trust me, trust me. So thank you so much, and we will be, giving you a token of appreciation for it today. Hopefully something that will help you in your many adventures to come. So again, from the sales department and from the Chips exec, thank you so much for your presentation today, and we wish you many more money in your bank account, and stay safe. And thank you so much.
Yes, I appreciate that, and I take the blessings, and I do hope for the best for everybody. In this presentation, anybody will be seeing this presentation afterwards. I'm one of those kind of clean heart persons. I want to see everybody do well in life. I don't take pleasure in being up here and looking at you down here. I prefer when we're all up here. So you don't have to come onto my yacht. We can all roll our yachts out together, side by side, right? On a rainy day, you'd have to ask me for a ride. We can drive out together. That's how I want it to be. So, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, if you need any guidance on anything. I'll be more than happy to help you once I can. I'm still learning a lot, so sometimes my advice might be a bit shaky at the time, but experience does teach wisdom. And yeah, man, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Mr. Williams. And as you can see, we are looking forward to the yachts in the comments. We are looking forward to the
Right.
to the yachts. Thank you guys so much for turning out. You were a great audience. Do follow our social pages, our Instagram page, Chips at NCU, our Twitter page, also Chips at NCU. The recording will be made available on our YouTube channel, Chips at NCU. So go and look us up, follow us up, add us up. Make sure you are up to date on all our wonderful events. This was just the first of many to come. Next month, we are looking forward to Semicode Con, which you will be hearing more about in the coming weeks. So do continue to be awesome and enjoy the rest of your afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here.
All right.